All right, let me ask you a question. Are you struggling with scaling your capital raise business? Now, you could be a syndicator or a capital raiser for experienced operators, and maybe you've raised some money before, but you're like, I cannot meet enough investors. How do I meet new investors? How do I 10x my current capital raise business? And if that's you, then this episode is going to be very interesting because on this, I'm going to show you how you can raise millions of dollars seemingly effortlessly in just days. And you might ask, well, how do you do that? And the answer is by building an online thought leadership platform, right? This mysterious thing in the sky that all the big boys and big gals appear to be doing. And the thing is, it's actually easier to do than you think. So on this episode, I'm going to break it down. In fact, I'm going to bring on our director of marketing, who's an expert in marketing, and we're going to dissect the platform into its components, the right way to build it. And some ways I've seen it built the wrong way, and results in a lot of lost opportunity and not being able to raise the capital you want. So if that's interesting to you, then let's get right into it here. Let's do this. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot to mention before we get too far into it to make sure you grab tickets for Dealmaker Live. It's going to be in Dallas, July 16 to 18. It's going to be in Dallas at the Hilton Anatole, where we had it last year. And really exciting. We have a huge lineup of anyone who's anyone in multifamily speaking there. We have Brandon Turner, Bigger Pockets. We have Robert Helms, real estate guys. We've got Joe Farrell's going to be there and a whole bunch of other people. We're going to have people who just did their first deal. We're going to have people talking who just quit their jobs. I'd love this kind of stuff, the most popular podcast we ever have. And we're going to meet these people in person at Dealmaker Live in July. So make sure you head over to dealmakerliveevent.com and grab your tickets. They're going to sell out for sure. And dealmakerliveevent.com is a place to do it. So that being said, really excited about the whole idea of building a platform to raise millions seemingly effortlessly in days. So to help us with that is our director of marketing, Kate Buck, who has an extensive marketing background, and she manages all of our marketing right now. And I'm really pleased to have her on board to kind of dissect the online platform. So let's get right into an interview with Kate Buck. Here we go. Kate, welcome to the show today.
Hello. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so you are the genius behind our marketing engine, and I wanted to have you on the show because we're going to talk about marketing and the importance of marketing. Before we get into it, tell the people a little bit about your background because it's fascinating.
Sure. Well, I've been in this crazy field of digital marketing for over now, and I've had the opportunity of working with some of the top names in internet marketing, kind of some pioneers in the space, some of the people who, were really laying the groundwork for the kind of YouTube marketing and podcast marketing and email marketing and social media marketing. And so I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of those top names. I've worked with companies like Agora Financial, or some of the leaders in the direct response marketing space, as a social media consultant, as a digital marketing manager, as a brand manager. And so this is a lovely opportunity that I've had for the last few months of getting to work with you in your online and digital marketing. And so now I'm excited to have my first little podcast episode.
Yeah. This is great. You're being very modest, right? So you actually work with Ryan Dyson, digital marketer, and most of you people listening and watching this probably never heard of Ryan Dyson, digital marketer, but you will. Is one of the biggest marketers out there, and you worked with those guys, and that's awesome. And you worked in social media management and content production and paid traffic and all that stuff. So it's awesome that you're on board here because you've really elevated our standard to a whole new level, which is awesome. You made me upgrade to this fancy camera I'm looking into right now, and I got to clip my nose hairs now just to make sure it doesn't show up on the video.
Yeah, it looks fabulous.
Oh, the nose hair or the camera?
Both, really. I mean, it's great. Yeah, it's like there's so many good things that we can do, and it's been really fun to come on and be able to bring what I know from all of those years of even publishing my own information products and supporting clients with social media. And you have such a great brand, and such good information and positive impact on the world, impact driven. And so it makes a lot of sense. And yes, I have had a really great career. I've spoken on some of the biggest stages. And like I said, I have students that have gone on to be multimillionaires. I've learned my systems and, the things that I know. So it's fun to be here, and it's fun to work, on this brand and on this project. So I'm really excited. And we're going to start talking about some marketing stuff and why, even though it seems like we might be taking a left-hand turn here, like why knowing digital marketing is important for being a syndicator, right?
Well, that's right. And you might be listening to this going, what in the world is a marketing person doing on a syndication show? But here's the truth of it. If you really want to scale the syndication business, you have to start thinking about marketing. So you might think you're in the real estate investing business, and you are, but you're also in the online marketing business. And if you study the big names who are raising millions of dollars in days, Joe Fairless, Dan Hanford, Neil Bawa, Nighthawk with us and our brand. If you study those people, what are they all doing? What do they have in common? They're always producing content. They're in social media. They're in LinkedIn, right? They're marketing, and essentially they're online marketing. And this is why I want to shine a light on this, because one of the biggest problems, of course, is syndicators is after they've raised a little bit of money, they're like, this is great, but I can't meet enough people. I've exhausted my own personal network, and they kind of feel stuck. And the answer to that is yes, that's why you need to start online marketing, because you have the ability to attract people you've never met before, build a relationship with them so that they invest with you. So today we're going to talk all about online marketing, platform building to raise millions in days. And of course, to help us with this topic is the lovely Kate. So Kate, let's talk about marketing.
Let's do it. Oh, before we jump in really quick, I'd love it if you would tell your story about how you just said, syndicators, they get to this place where they feel like they've tapped out like their personal networks and their networking abilities, and they need to move online. I'd love to hear about how that occurred for you when you knew that what you were doing at that point wasn't enough and that you needed to expand your reach or the awareness of your brand in another way in order to raise more capital.
Well, it's odd that you actually. I'm kind of a slow learner. I didn't connect the dots, honestly. So when I started blogging about this, it was really about helping other people become financially free, which is typically an active activity, active syndication. And so it was a no-brainer for me. That's the way to get the word out. And oddly enough, I didn't connect the dots on the capital raising. So, not that long ago, I would say a little bit over 18, maybe 24 months ago, we had a relatively small deal at the time, and we put it out there, and I had a pretty good list, and I put it out there, and we struggled to raise capital for that deal. And it was embarrassing, right, before we had come. And I was shocked. I was like, how can this be? And I was looking at my list, and yes, there were several hundred people on this list, but after they downloaded my free down report, that was the last they heard of me. So when I finally came out a deal, 3, 6, whatever, 9 months, however long, it's been, they're like, what is this email? Delete. Or worse, it probably ended up in a spam folder. And that's when the light bulb went off. I'm like, oh my gosh, I am not engaging my list. I haven't done anything in the last 6 to 9 months to engage my list. And that is a major mistake that I made. And now we've since fixed that. And so now I'm producing essentially 2 pieces of content every week. One is for the active investor. One is more for the passive investor. Yeah, it's more work for me, but really, I get to speak to those two separate audiences. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm a slow learner. I didn't connect the dots but it's very similar. My thinking was, oh my gosh, there's the real estate business and there's maybe the educational business, and I didn't connect the two until somewhat about a year ago. And then at that point now we're producing content. We're doing the things that we're going to talk about on the show.
And would you say there's a difference in that when you put an email out for the list now that you're producing and giving content versus before, you've seen a difference?
Yeah, night and day. I mean, night and day, because now when we put out a deal, we can raise $8 million in 3 days. And it's partly a function of our commitment to consistent content production and engagement that we now have with our passive investors. And that's the secret. That's the key.
So, all right, lovely. Thank you for telling me that story. So I want to know more from you. So really, the syndicators that are listening to this podcast, why do they, I mean, we've kind of touched on some of it already, but really what are the bullet points of why they need to create a platform or have a platform in order to raise money? What are some of the typical things?
Yeah, I mean, as a syndicator, the number one problem it solves is it allows you to raise millions in days. It allows you to scale your capital raising business. And I'm pretty convinced that with a platform or properly built platform, you can easily 10x your capital raise capacity within 12 to 18 months. So if you've raised $500,000 to date, you should be able to raise $5 million in 12 to 18 months. So the number one reason really is to raise more capital. Then it's got a bunch of secondary benefits, in my opinion. I think it allows you, a platform allows you, it gives you a platform. Look, imagine a stage, right? If you're down in the bottom and you're talking to people, they can't really hear and see you, but on a platform, people can hear and see you. So it gives you something where you can get a message out. What is your message, right? Your message, in some sense, is to help serve your audience, which is typically investors who have invested in the stock market, right? So there's a problem out there, and that is investing in the stock market, as is evidenced, right now with the stock market going all over the place. We have a problem right now, and that problem is the stock market. And you as syndicators have a solution to this problem. That is multifamily syndications. So you are serving an audience of traditionally stock market investors, and you're serving them by educating them about an alternative investment, which is multifamily syndications. So a platform allows you to impact and serve more people. Yeah, that's the bottom line. It's influence.
I just want to ask for a second. We keep using this word platform, and there may be people listening that don't exactly understand. We may go into a little bit more detail later, but can you tell me? Now, just very basic, what do we mean when we say platform, just so people following along can keep up?
Yeah, it's a great question. A lot of times people think that a platform is, for example, a podcast, and a podcast is part of a platform, but it's not the core of the platform. The core of the platform really does several things. Number one is it attracts a certain kind of person, in this case, a certain kind of investor. Number two, it captures their information in some way. You know who they are. You have at least an email address, so it captures number two. Number three, the platform serves that audience, typically with content and educational material. And then number four, it leads them to some kind of transformation. In the world of syndication, it leads them down exploring alternative investments and syndications. So, and then there's a fifth part of the platform, which is the promotion part of it. And a lot of people put the cart before the horse and they start promoting themselves without actually that core platform in place. So that's what I mean by platform. It does those four things.
Michael, what are the biggest mistakes people make when they're trying to set this up? You mentioned one just then about putting the cart before the horse. What are some of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're trying to build this platform or raise money online?
Yeah, let me give you the visual of the cart before the horse. This is what I love. So someone gets on a podcast. Maybe it's even mine or someone else's, and they get on. There's a great podcast interview, and then the host asks the guest, how can people find out more? And they say, go to my website, xyz.com. And that's the end of it, okay? And so number one is, why would I want to go to this person's website? There's really no compelling reason unless I want to read your bio more. So there's really no reason. And let's say I'm dumb enough to want to go over there, and I go over there, and I see a pretty webpage, and that's great. But there's no way for the guest now to capture that visitor. The visitor comes, looks at it, and goes away. There's no way to capture that person. And so in other words, they have wasted an opportunity getting on someone else's podcast because that host now is not going to have you on for at least 12 months, most likely 2 years. So you've kind of wasted an opportunity versus, hey, you're getting on a podcast. Hey, my website is XYZ, and I have an unbelievable, fantastic report that shows you how you can retire early in the next 5 years. With real estate. And the audience listening to that are going to go, I want to know how to retire early with real estate. And they're going to go to your website to get this report. And then they're going to download this report, and now you have their email address. A second mistake that people make, and that is the number one, the biggest mistake, is there's no lead capture. Either they have no lead capture at all, or they'll have a thing on there that says, join my newsletter. Like, who wants to join a newsletter? I don't want to join a newsletter. That's the dumbest thing ever. Give me something worthwhile. The second mistake is what I made. I did actually have a free download, but once they free download, they said, welcome, and here's your free download. Have a nice life, and that's the last you heard of me. And that is also not good. So you need to do a second thing. You need to have a series of automations that welcomes them, indoctrinates them, educates them. But because we're also in the world of syndication, just because they're on their email list actually doesn't mean that you can give them a live deal because of the SEC laws. So no, because you have to create a pre-existing substantive relationship. So how do you do that? Well, here's how you do it. One of the main things is, in addition to filling out a short questionnaire, is to have a phone call with them. So the way we do it is we have this idea of an investment club. Join our investment club. Well, in order to join our investment club, you fill out a questionnaire, check, SEC reg check, and you have to schedule a phone call, SEC reg check, right? Now that process can be very tedious unless, of course, you automate it with technology, which is what we do and we advocate. So when you schedule, you fill out the form, you're halfway in the club, but we still can't show you a deal because you haven't had a conversation. We don't know who you are really yet. We don't know if this is right for you, if this is your last 2 pennies you're going to invest, if you're accredited, non-accredited, whatever the case may be. So we have to have a phone call. So if you don't schedule a phone call, we're going to chase you for a little while with automated emails. And if you still don't schedule a phone call, you're going to get our newsletters, and in there it'll remind you to schedule a call because I can't show you a deal yet, right? And so you have to essentially indoctrinate and make these leads what I call deal ready. And once a lead is deal ready, I can now present them with a live deal. And now we can do a live webinar and present the deal. And now we have another automation that allows them to express interest in a deal. It's called a soft commit. They fill out another form, and there's another set of automations that then onboards that investor to DocuSign the documents and wire the funds. And when you have this thing in place, Kate, it is, I mean, you've seen it now a couple times from a distance, even though Nighthawk handles these things, but it's amazing how many people will invest in an opportunity because you have educated them, you've welcomed them, you had a conversation with them, and it really is magical. So the second big mistake is there's no way for them to be indoctrinated. There's no follow-up whatsoever. Let's see, what else? We talked about that. The other mistake I see people do is not doing anything because they feel so overwhelming and foreign to them that they try to do everything at once, and just going through the visual mindset of that, they're like, oh, this is so overwhelming, I'm not even gonna try. And obviously there's a certain sequence that you can build that's actually not overwhelming. Another mistake I see people making is striving for perfection. And that's, that's got to be a perfect email, I don't like the way I look on video. Oh my gosh. I like the way I sound, and I don't write well, and so they make up all the excuses because they think they have to have perfect content, and that holds a lot of people back. So those are some of the mistakes I see people who are thinking about even trying to do a platform.
Muted. I think that's really common in general, especially when people are putting themselves out online. It's something that I've seen a lot where I work mostly with personal brands, speakers, authors, coaches, right? That has led me to working with you, is that it is very personal because it is your face, or it is your voice, or it is your writing, or whatever. And people are a little apprehensive about that for whatever reason. So I guess my next question, I hear you talking both about that, and also you mentioned the word automations and a little bit about technology. And so with both of those being said, do you feel like anyone can do this, or is there a certain type of, would be better for doing this? Or if somebody's not a writer, or they don't have those technical skills maybe that you mentioned, or maybe they are afraid to be on video or start their own podcast or whatever, is this still an option for them, an opportunity, or should they just, figure out other alternative methods?
Yeah, okay, so you're asking is who's this for, right? And who is it not for? You broke up a little bit. I'll fill in the gap a little bit. So that's a great question, because one of the things I hear a lot is that, oh, I'm not a writer, or me and technology don't really get along, right? And so there's a perception that you need to be a writer and you need to be a techie to pull this off. And the truth is, you don't really need to be either. All right, let me talk about that. For example, there are ways of creating original content that doesn't require writing, or at least your own writing. What I mean by that is you create a video and you just answer a question. Well, how do I invest with the IRA, right? The average syndicator is going to be able to answer questions like that. Well, how do you invest with the IRA? What's the process? Well, rather than me writing a blog post or an article around that, I can just answer the question looking into a camera. If someone is not comfortable with looking in the camera because they don't like the way they look, then you can speak into the phone, and you can take that voice that voice and upload it to a service called Temi, TEMI.com, and you get an actual transcription of that either video or that voice, and now you can edit that into a blog post, or you can give it to someone else to edit in a blog post. So you don't actually have to be a writer at all. Number two, regarding the technology. So here's the thing about this, technology it's never been easier to use technology. Technology is so sophisticated in the sense that it makes it so easy to use. And it used to be very difficult. Some people may be familiar with Infusionsoft, which some people lovingly call what, Kate? Confusionsoft, right? It's so complicated that literally everyone who has used it has to hire a consultant to get everything done. Well, there are other technology, and it's getting simpler now, and there's other technologies that we can do something very simpler with that actually is it's drag and drop. It's very visual. The biggest thing with technology is a mindset thing. People feel they're afraid of technology, but when I show them how to do a simple task, such as scheduling an email or creating a very simple automation to show how easy that is, or even my gosh, get this, updating a web page, like showing them how to do that, that's super scary, and it turns out to be super simple. People have a closed mind to technology. And I think the biggest lesson is people need to have an open mind to technology, maybe have a curiosity to learn new things, because they're actually super, super easy, and much more easy than they were even 5 years ago. And number 3, though, is that today now it's easier than ever before to outsource these things to other people. You can hire a virtual assistant in the Philippines or Latin America, where you're paying them 4 times more than what they can make in their own country. Meanwhile, paying them 10 times less than someone equivalent in the U.S. who are highly competent, can write amazing, and are technology wizards that can literally do all these things for you. They can post a blog post. They can schedule the email. So all you got to do is create the raw content in a Google Doc or in a video, and you can literally hire someone to produce all this content out there. So it's never been easier to consistently produce content and to create a platform.
So now we just talked about some of the people that maybe haven't built their platform yet, but what about for folks that have maybe built a very basic platform, have that in place? What are some of the advanced ways that you have found, now that you've been doing this for that 18 to 20 months or whatever it is, that you have found to bring in more investors using your online platform?
Yeah, first of all, if someone has built a basic platform, my argument is that they probably haven't built a platform. And I hear this all the time. So basic platform right there is like, you know what, you shouldn't do anything else but finish building your platform. And it really has to do with your ability to capture leads as they come in, your ability to welcome and indoctrinate those leads, and a way to onboard them into your quote investment club, and you need a infrastructure and commitment to produce regular content. Those are the 4 hearts of the platform right there. And if you don't have that in place right now, you shouldn't do anything else. And if you do have that in place, good for you. You're a rare exception. And we're trying to educate all of our students to kind of focus on that core platform so that they can do the things that you're talking about, which you know are more advanced. But it's not so much advanced. It's more the 5th phase, which is about building your list, generating leads, and promoting yourself, right? So now you can get onto a podcast. Now you can get on someone's podcast, and at the end they say, hey, I got this great special report about how to retire early with real estate. Go to my site and download this report. You can now do things such as speak at a meetup. So when you speak at a meetup, you can have the same call to action, right? A good number of people in the audience will then go to your website, download the report because they may be interested in investing with you. Now you can do other things like even potentially start your own podcast, right? Start your own podcast, and on your own podcast, you shout out your own special report that people can download. You can do all these things. You can, start a YouTube channel, which I highly encourage as you're putting out regular content, because YouTube is the 2nd largest search engine out there, aside from Google as well, and people can find you on there. And in your videos at the end, you shout out your special report. You're always shouting out your free download, your what we call a lead magnet. You're always doing that. Yeah, right. This yellow thing right here. See, this is my book. Yeah, thank you so much. Financial Freedom, Real Estate Investing. Yeah, that's right.
Put that on Amazon.
And what's important with the book is you have to produce content intentionally. Meaning that I used to think that if I put out great high quality content, I can transform people, and that may be the case, but really you don't transform people unless you tell them what to do next. That's the thing. Well, okay, you enjoyed this blog post, then go watch this video. You enjoyed this video, go download this. You download this, go to this event, right? You have to suggest to them the next best action. Same thing with a book. It doesn't help you to put out a book without a platform, because in your book, Amazon doesn't share with you who bought this book. So how are you going to capture a lead? You need to reference a lead magnet in this book. And for example, if you were to buy this book, I actually have a free companion course that goes with this. And it's a substantial course that normally I should probably charge several $100s for, and it's free. Why do I do that, right? So, almost 50% of people who buy this book also register for the companion course. So now I have their email address. I can have a conversation with them, right? Same thing for starting a podcast. I see people start a podcast. They do not have a lead magnet on their website. It's insane to me, okay? Another advanced strategy is paid traffic, right? Facebook is a great way to generate paid traffic. And the way it works is that you have an ad, and you pay Facebook to show this ad, and Facebook's algorithms are so I don't know, sophisticated that they identify the potential passive investor. They see what people are clicking on that. They go to your lead magnet, they download it, and Facebook knows that they went to your page and downloaded it through this magical thing called pixels, right, Kate? These pixels. Yeah. And so Facebook tracks you all over the place, and all you got to do is throw money at it. Meaning that if you want more leads and more downloads, you actually spend more money, and all of a sudden you get more leads. It's magical. It really is magical.
But that is definitely one of those advanced strategies that we're talking about, because it's like you said earlier, just because you may have a basic platform in place, we are always tweaking and testing things and going back and reviewing what we did and updating it, because little hinges swing big doors, right? So a small tweak to your lead capture system, or a small tweak to the way you're doing the indoctrination sequence or whatever, can make a big difference. And when you're starting, if you're just using social media and you're using organic methods, let's say, so basically what people think of as free, which is still not free if you're creating the content and paying someone to put it out there. But nonetheless, let's just say that you're not using paid traffic. You feel like the effectiveness is good with that. Well, when you start paying to drive that same traffic, you'll get a real sense of how effective your platform is, because it just changes the dynamics of when you're actually spending money to get a lead versus when you're using some alternative methods, like just throwing up a YouTube video. People come and check you out. That's one thing. But now if you're doing YouTube advertising or something, it gives you just a different perspective. Yeah. So those are one of those things that you really want to dial in. Like you mentioned, even if you have it, you want to audit it. You want to be measuring it before you apply paid traffic to your funnel.
Well, that's right. And the main downside of paid traffic is that it's paid, meaning that you actually have to spend money. And that's a major downside of that, which means you do have to have a system that you know makes you money. Now, how do you make money with raising capital, right? So it's very important that we understand the business case behind that, because if you're selling tickets to an event or I'm selling a course, I know that I can spend X amount of dollars and I get Y amount of dollars out. And so I have a business case. But with capital raising, how do you know if there's a business case? In other words, how much money can I spend to actually put in marketing? And really the way it works and kind of the way we teach it is that, first of all, it requires an ongoing commitment, both in time and money, meaning that an ongoing commitment to producing regular content, but also a commitment to spend money on your marketing. Typically around outsourcing parts of your content production and paid traffic. So I want to kind of talk about the business case for that, really. But really, the idea is that you are producing the raw content. That could be writing the blog post in a Google Doc, or creating a video and then having someone produce it, either making it look pretty, editing it, and putting it out to the blog, to the email system. And that costs money to do that. And it's not really your best time and use of your time to kind of do that. And it's also very affordable to outsource that, but it still requires money. Where's that money coming from? Now, we can't do it on this show here. We have maybe another show here because it requires a little bit of some numbers and spreadsheets. But really the idea is that as let's say you're raising some capital, $250,000, $500,000, whatever the case may be, you get an acquisition fee from that. The idea is that you continue investing a certain percentage of any kind of acquisition fees that you make into your marketing. So the average, let's say, capital raiser, whether you're a capital raiser or you're actually an operator, let's say you're a capital raiser, because that's very common right now. You're a capital raiser and you're raising capital for one or two really experienced operators. And so obviously you raise a certain amount of money, you get a certain amount of acquisition fees. Rather than going out and buying a bunch of beer without money and spending it, you actually invested in marketing in the way I just described here. You invested in a digital marketing company who helps you produce this content on a weekly basis. And number two, you spend it on paid Facebook traffic to generate more leads. And if you look at people who raise millions in days, big platforms, such as ourselves, but there's others like us, that's exactly what we're doing. We're producing content on a regular basis, having a team put the content out. That's Kate. And then number two, we also pay money on paid Facebook traffic as a so efficient way to do that, and that requires money. So the idea is that you keep feeding the marketing machine by reinvesting between 20 and 30% of any kind of acquisition fees that you get into the marketing machine. Okay, so the industry standard for conversion, and we've studied our own numbers and I compared to some of our peers, is for every 32 people who download your lead magnet, one of them will become an investor. Okay, and the average investment typically is $70,000. If your investment minimum is $50,000, the average investor across all investors will be around $70,000. Okay, so you know that for every one investor, every 32 that download your lead magnet through the automations in your online content, one of those will invest with you. Now you can do some sophisticated spreadsheet stuff, which I love to do, of course. But let me net it out to you. Based on certain assumptions, $70,000 average investment, and let's say you're raising capital for an operator, and you end up with 25% of the GP for raising, let's say the money for this deal, and you end up with 25%. The value of that $70,000 raise is about $2,100. Okay, so you can do some math. If you raise 10 times that, you add a zero at the end of it, so you're raising not 70 but 700,000. Your share of the acquisition fees is 21,000. Okay, and some of you guys listening who have done this go, that seems about right. Maybe it's lower, a little higher, but it's 21,000. So you take that half of that, let's say in the early days, and you reinvest that in marketing. And then as your marketing machine starts to get speed and starts spinning around, you decrease your ongoing commitment. You go from 50 to 40, from 40 to 30, and you end up around 20%. Okay, 20% of your income is used for marketing. What happens is, because of the magic of the automations and the paid Facebook traffic, it generates more and more investors. So that conservatively, okay, get this, conservatively, I think you can 10x your capital raise in 12 to 18 months, conservatively. So if you're raising $500,000 today, within 12 to 18 months, you're raising $5 million. And we've seen that. We've seen our peers do the same thing. And this is why I believe that investing in a platform now and reinvesting the proceeds, or even being proactive and investing before you actually have money coming in that way, is an incredible marketing engine. There's really no more profitable application, Kate, of an online platform than raising capital, because the ROI is so gigantic.
Well, it's really true. And I love what you're just sharing. If you don't mind, I want to take a moment and shout out. You'll see in the show notes that we actually do have this spreadsheet that you're talking about. We have a great blog post. Of course we do. And you can both read the blog post and download the accompanying spreadsheet with it. The link will be in the show notes on the blog post. And in addition, Michael, I think we have something cool coming up, in that you are going to be teaching this, some more about this live in the next couple of days.
Yeah, whatever. That's exactly. We're going to go deeper. I'm actually going to show you the elements of the platform. I'm going to show you some scary screenshots. I'm going to show you the platform in action, and we're going to go into the business plan in more detail, just so you understand it. It is truly magical. There's no investment that is better spent than on your online platform to raise capital. So yeah, so the URL I think we have is themichaelblank.com/platform. It'll be in a few days. It'll be a live webinar. And hop on that if you're interested in scaling your capital raise business right now. If that's you, and maybe you raised some money and you want to 10x it, or maybe you haven't raised any money yet, but you really want to go big quickly, and you want to skip the painful raising money one-on-one kind of thing, this might be a great training for you. So check it out. It's going to be at themichaelblank.com/platform.
Well, this has been fun. It's a little bit like a reverse podcast where you're the one who got interviewed today, but I appreciate the opportunity for being here, and thanks for all of your great info.
Yeah, it's been great. Like I said, I'm really excited about this idea of combining online marketing with capital raising. Again, I didn't connect the dots, and as I speak more and more to syndicators, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's exactly my problem. I don't know how to scale the business." And to me, we've been doing it so long, Kate. It's like, well, yeah, you got to go online, and you're like, well, how do I do that? And so we've got a lot of really positive responses. We've had this training before, and it was just kind of like an insider thing. Just a few of my friends, and they say, hey, let's talk about the online platform building business. So now we're going to make it a little broader. So if you want to learn to scale that, we're going to go a little deeper. We're going to do some screen sharing as well. So that's going to be themichaelblank.com/platform. So hopefully you guys can show me there in a few days. And if you're watching this podcast maybe later on and you can't catch the live version, we'll record it for you and you catch it later on. Okay? Sounds good. Kate, thanks very much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. Hope you found that inspiring and useful for anyone who wants to scale their capital raising business. Again, the spreadsheet that we talked about is going to be in the show notes. There's a blog post we're putting out with a video and a screen share of that spreadsheet, and you can download a spreadsheet as well. So look in the show notes for that spreadsheet, and then hopefully you can join me for the live webinar training here in a few days at themichaelblanc.com/platform. And we're going to go deep on the platform building and show you exactly how to do that and what sequence to do it. If you're watching this after we had the live webinar, we will record it, of course, and then you can watch that later as well. So anyway, thanks so much for spending your time here today. Make sure you grab a ticket at dealmakerliveevent.com, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Hey, and before you leave, make sure you subscribe to my channel below. We put out videos every single week, and you don't want to miss it. Also, if you haven't done so already, grab my free ebook here, okay? It's a secret to raising money to buy your first apartment building deal. It's a good one, so grab that. And hey, check out another video.